Good evening. Welcome to your Thursday evening dose of astronomy. This is Irene Pease, your friendly neighborhood astronomer, taking you on a little stroll around our celestial neighborhood. And this Thursday is a special Thursday because it's Mission of the Month Thursday, apparently, because it's the last week of Thursdays. Yeah, it's the last Thursday, and I haven't done a mission of the month, and I've actually been really looking forward to doing this particular mission of the month for quite some time, for I don't know, almost a year since I started doing these like um last summer and started thinking about different missions that I really like that I want to talk about. And I know I talk about this one a lot. And so we're finally going there. It is the Apollo 15 version of Friendly Neighborhood Astronomers tour around your local celestial neighborhood. So that's where we went tonight, Apollo 15. So some of you may know that it's an Apollo 15 anniversary coming right up, which is great. So yeah, we'll get to just a couple of dates. I don't have loads and loads of like details and stuff, but I'm excited to see what we can see here a little bit and poke around some of the views in open space, of course. So as usual, I will be using open space as you see in the background right now. You can find and download open space for free at openspaceproject.com. And as I think I mentioned last week, there's a new beta out, beta 10, I believe. So you can download that. I'm still tinkering with that a bit. And the one of the data sets that I'm using tonight is part of like the extra bundles that take like maybe a couple hours to download because there's several gigs. So I know there's one for Mars, and for tonight I downloaded the Moon one that has these extra high resolution images for the height and color maps of all of the Apollo landing sites. So 15 is one of those. So we're gonna check that out tonight and yeah, get into it. Also, just a quick disclaimer, because of where I am right now, outside of Brooklyn, believe it or not, um, still in New York, but I'm a little bit upstate, and we've had like some massive like storms going through. I think the worst has passed, but if things go dark, you know the reason if there's a power or internet outage. Hoping not, but just in case, I'll try to log back in if I don't get back. Thanks for tuning in. Um, so yeah, so let's pop on over to just our open space and we can see what we are going to see. So first thing I want to take a look at is the moon, because well, actually that's the main thing we're going to take a look at. The moon as seen from Earth at this point. See if I can roll around and find it little bits. Um, so moon phases are really important um, for all of the Apollo landings. They were timed so that the moon would be in just the right phase, so that you would basically have sunrise. It would be within like a day or two of lunar sunrise. So you would have all these lovely shadows. So all you observers out there, you know what I'm talking about. When we look at a full moon, it's not as exciting. You don't see a lot of contrast along that day night line, the terminator. So um, that's not only just, a fun place to look with our telescopes to see, lots of contrast in the mountains and ridges and rills and craters and all those fun things, but it's also important is important for the pilots who are trying to land on this terrain. So they needed to have longer shadows, so more contrast, right, which you would have at sunrise and sunset. Fortunately for the moon, sunrise happens like every month or so. So you could have like a few days of a window there that you could land at a given site. So they had to time the launches to match with that. So this is the moon as seen on Sunday, July 25th. I'm looking for my date. So they actually launched, we'll go ahead and fast forward through time. So they actually launched on Sunday, just kidding, Monday. They left on Monday morning. Like, just going to work like you do, another Monday, Monday the 26th. and it took them a few days to get there. So this is the moon on the 26th. Um, so it took them basically all week to commute all the way to the moon. And on Friday, the 30th, they arrived. So you can already see some of the trail there of the orbiter. So we had 3 astronauts, like we did for all the other, lunar missions. We had, Commander David Scott, commander of the mission. We had the lunar module pilot, James Irwin. So Scott and Irwin are the 2 that went down and landed and poked around, as we'll talk about in a bit. And then command module pilot, Alfred Worden. So Al Worden stayed in the command module, making these loops that you're seeing around the moon, basically passing over the landing site with each pass, but kind of all on his onesies, and more on that in a little bit. So yeah, so they basically got there on a Friday, spent a long weekend, driving around, just cruising, collecting souvenirs, taking pictures. So they're Friday to Monday. So July 30th through August 2nd. So tomorrow is basically the anniversary of them landing at the Apollo 15 landing site. So it was 50 years ago this month, 50 years ago tomorrow that they arrived here. Um, I think, um, yeah, Warden, again, he was the one who was up in the command module. So he did fly over, but he couldn't necessarily see the site with every pass, depending on how that barbecue roll was going. So again, they kind of rotate the module so that like one side doesn't bake in the sun because that'd be bad. Um, so I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to Sunday. I guess this is August 1st, and so you can see like more of his tracks up there. But I want to go ahead and pop down to the surface, and we'll see if I can find it or not. Probably. Um, so um, yeah, let me pop this out, pop that out. So I actually do have we do have these, like I said, these extra maps. So I'm gonna try it with and without the map. So this mountain that's over here, I believe this is Mount Hadley. So they landed basically, just a little bit of context here. The Mare that we're seeing here, I always get the east and west confused. So I'm just gonna say left and right. So to the left here, that's Mare Imbrium. And then we have Mare Serenitatis, Sea of Serenity. Um, and between them, we have these mountain ranges, the Caucasus and the Apennines. So Mount Hadley, which is where kind of where they landed, is kind of like the north-ish part of the Apennines. And so there's a mountain, Mount Hadley, and then there's this rill that goes along there that they kind of studied a bit. That's Hadley's Rill. So I didn't actually look up who Hadley was. I just realized that I don't know who that is. But, but they have a rill and a mountain on the moon, so, oopsies, lucky them. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull up because I'm getting uh, little distracted with the flying and things. I'm practicing. This is all practice. Um, so like I said, we do have, extra, um Apollo 15. There we go. So we do have these extra data sets. See if I can just zoom in here a little bit. Um, that have the high resolution maps of these regions. So if we look at our moon maps, and again, I might do another one of those shows where it's like you can peek behind the curtain and see what the controls are like. I think the last time I tried to do that, everything crashed for totally unrelated reasons, but they crashed nonetheless. So we'll have to try again at some point. But yeah, so here we have just some kind of high res, but oh, why am I not seeing? Oh, there we go. Um, Apollo 15. So we should have a patch flying in there. And I'm just going to kind of pause a little bit. So there's our color map, and we have our height map as well. Fabulous. Um, so just kind of recenter here on the moon. So you can tell like the difference in resolution um, with these are lunar reconnaissance orbiter LRO maps, and you can see we have that Rille because they landed really close to it, and then Mount Hadley kind of to the south. So one of the fun things about this mission, so many fun things, but this was the first of the J missions. So the J missions were designed to be a bit longer. So instead of spending like a pretty short time, like, less than a day or so on the moon, like I said, they spent a long weekend. So they spent a few days up there. Um, so brighten this up a little. Whoa, yeah, so you get a little contrast in there. So they did spend a bit of time there, Friday to Monday. And one of the other exciting things, one of the reasons this is my favorite, is they brought a car because, why not? Why not just bring a car to the moon? I mean, if you're going to go to the moon, you might as well, right? And I think I've got like way off from where I wanted to be. Um, so just holler if you see like a moon buggy and tracks and stuff on the moon. I think I have a marker I can use if I need it, but it's more fun just to look around. So, like I said, so the two went down there, Scott and Irwin, and they had over 18 hours of EVAs. So, setting up equipment. So they had the EVAs; those are the extra vehicular activities. Um, So they set up equipment that they left on the moon. And of course, they went for rides in the moon buggies because, they brought these, well, they brought just the one really expensive moon buggy. There we go. To the moon. So again, this was the first time we had a car on the moon. It's basically a really expensive car. Um, like, really expensive. I think it almost, like, doubled the budget, like, they had put in for about half of what it was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be, like, 19,000,000, and it wound up being 38,000,000. Yeah, that doubles. Um, so it was pretty designed to be pretty lightweight, um, but it was, yeah, only 460 pounds on Earth, which translates to only 76 pounds on the moon, because, again, the moon has 1/6 the gravity of Earth. Um, so yeah, there you go. So they still didn't go too terribly far. It's like this little electric car you could kind of rove around. I think I have a picture. Nope, not that one. There we go. Car on the moon. So just a little two-seater. It really is a buggy, no roll cage or anything. It's not like they're gonna go super fast or, not really joyriding. I was joking about that. Um, but but enough that they could travel further from the landing site, which was really helpful. So they could get a variety of rock. So they're kind of again at the edge of this Maria, but they also have mountains. And then there's this really interesting rill feature that, of course, everyone wanted to check out because it's cool. So they still limited their moon buggy trips to 5 kilometers in case something broke down and they had to go back, like walking, in their big bulky suits. But yeah, so here we have this is basically landing. So this is the Falcon that landed. So that was their landing module, and you can see basically their little bitty tracks. So tracks to over here and all this like setting up equipment. So some of these little bits are just different equipment. So pretty much all of the lunar landings had like science equipment, like seismographs and all these things that we set up um, to learn more about the moon. And one of the other fun things, like I just mentioned, the gravity is less, but there is still gravity. And so, as a physics teacher, one of my favorite things that they did here. Um, oh, and thanks. I'm seeing the English inventor John Hadley, which is where the reel was named after. Thanks, Tom. Um, so so one of the fun things that they did was they made this little video, and I forgot to set up my sound earlier, and it takes like half an hour. So I didn't set up the sound. So this is gonna be like a little bit, just bear with me while I get the sound working. And I just want to show this video um, of the feather and hammer drop. So, like this kind of classic experiment that physics teachers are always like, oh, yeah, well, if you did this on the moon, and like in physics classes, we're stuck doing it, with a little vacuum tube. And it's just not as exciting, to be honest. So, it's really cool that David Scott actually did this from the surface of the moon. They had a falcon feather, and they weren't trained geologists, but they got geology lessons before they went up there so they could collect rocks. And every geologist, has their favorite rock hammer. So they had a little rock hammer for their geology stuff, and then a little falcon feather that they brought along. Um, so I'll just play this and see if I can get the sound to work as well.
And a hammer. I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago, who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather for our falcon. And I'll drop the two of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that?
Woo! All right. So that was the classic feather hammer drop on the surface of the moon. Very cool. So that was something else that they did at this site 50 years ago this weekend, on one of their EVAs. So they had a couple extra EVAs. They did they did some like stand ups where they just kind of stood up outside of the module to get like a good view, like looking around a bit. And then just kind of zoom out a little bit. So they tracked over to the rail actually twice. Um, Once to this kind of curve, and then also to an area further down. So they did an EVA over the survey, and they did an EVA, whoa, way down over in here. I think that's supposed to be the elbow. So almost to kind of like the foot of Mount Hadley. So but they couldn't really see the rill from the landing site. Um, it's not too terribly far, but if we just kind of zoom in a little bit here, um, wish me luck. Um, we kind of zoom in and look at our oops at our rill here. Um, Remember, the moon is a lot smaller than the Earth. I think we all know that. But one thing that people might not think about, like, yeah, it has less gravity, but it also has less curvature. So the horizon is a lot closer, um, than we're used to seeing it on Earth. And oh, and and my one of my former physics instructors is mentioning that yeah, you should be able to time the fall and estimate the height, um, to find gravity on the moon. So if we weren't sure about gravity on the moon, it's another way we can do that. So thanks, David Scott, for that. Um, so yeah, so as we come down here, like even if we're over by the rill, um, we're only seeing about, I think the horizon's supposed to be about 1.5 miles away as opposed to about 3 miles. Sorry for the non-metric measurements. But yeah, basically the horizon is half the distance on the moon, because it is a bit smaller. So we can come up and kind of see down into the rim, this rima that they did collect several rocks from all over, in addition to like dropping stuff just for kicks and videotaping it. So you notice they did have like color video and stuff. So a lot of fancy toys for the moon. Um, But this Rima, they think or sorry, this Rill, they think is probably a collapsed lava tube. So we see some of those other features like this elsewhere on the moon that I've probably mentioned in some of my other tours. But yeah, it just kind of drops down in there. It's not like really steep. It's not like they were in danger of like falling over and like not being able to get up or something. Um, but it is a little ways down. And then you can turn around and actually see, ooh, look, Mount Hadley. Up to the south, which is just kinda cool. Um, yeah, this is what I like about being in open space, is just being able to, like, kinda poke around and look around the moon and everything. And if you know where the Earth is, you might even be able to find the Earth in the night sky, or actually in the daytime sky here. I am not as good at finding Earth, so Earth should be yeah, I'm trying to think where Earth would be up here. There's the Earth. Um So one thing that I didn't even realize, I was reading an article by AAA's very own Tom Haberly, that they had left a camera to actually see a solar eclipse. So there was like a solar eclipse like 2 days after. It's like yeah, basically right after they left the moon, like just a few days later. Um, and unfortunately, the camera didn't function, so they should have been able to see, like, um, the shadow of the moon cross there, but it didn't work, unfortunately, so next time next time we go to the moon, maybe we'll leave a camera and, it'll work this time so you can actually see that spot. I mean, we've basically seen it since then from the International Space Station, um, so yeah. But yeah, I didn't wanna spend too much time here. I'm trying to make sure I got through everything. Oh, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and start pulling out so we can look at the command module a little bit. Um, the other things that they did on their EVA, like I said, they collected a bunch of rocks, about 170 pounds of rocks, and I'm not sure if that's 170 pounds on the moon or 170 pounds on Earth. I guess the moon makes more sense. You need to know how much weight you're leaving the moon with. Um, but one of the rocks that they collected was called the Genesis rock, which is this rock of mostly anorthosite. So a lot of the moon is covered with basalt and anorthosite. So basalt is like this really kind of lightweight volcanic rock. We see a lot of that in volcanic regions on Earth. And then anorthosite is a very kind of low density feldspar plagioclase. And so a lot of the anorthosite on the moon, we think, came from like early on in its formation when this lighter stuff floated up to make more of the crust. And then the stuff that was left behind, the heavier stuff, the denser stuff, sunk to the middle of the moon. So it turns out that the so called Genesis rock isn't quite as old as the moon. So it's not like from the early lunar formation, but they still call it the Genesis rock. Um, Oh, and as Faisal's pointing out, they need to know how much rocks weigh on Earth because they do declare them in customs. Yes, when the astronauts return, they have to fill out a customs form of everything they're bringing back. Um, Maybe more on that in a little bit. The other thing that they didn't bring back, but they left behind was a tribute, and they didn't announce it, I don't think, until after they got back. But they left think I have it in here. That's our tribute to fallen astronauts and cosmonauts. So the people that they knew of at that point that had died in space exploration. So they left a plaque with their names and then this little art. It's like a little statue, a little figure there that they left behind as well. So as as Scott and Irwin were, poking around the moon their collecting souvenirs and leaving tracks and going for sweet rides. Um, Al Worden was, orbiting the moon. And he was at one point what the Guinness Book of World Records has decided was the, what do they say, the most isolated person ever. So being on the far side of the moon from the Earth, the far side of the moon from his crewmates, um, He was actually further away from them than other, people were on subsequent missions or any other missions. So he was all of I don't I have a number somewhere. It was over 2,000 miles away from 2,235 miles away from his crewmates. So the loneliest person, most isolated person. I'm not sure what he did for his long weekend. I think he moved stuff around to make room for the moon rocks and whatnot. Um, but yeah. So another fun thing about Apollo 15, if I can find my model. Oh dear. I think we might be in the moon. Um, oops. All right. So I'm just gonna go back to the Earth, I hope. Um, hmm. All right. So don't panic. It's my panic button. I'm just gonna restart this so we can check out the command module because there's some other cool things that I wanted to maybe just point out on there. Um, on the way home, I guess the really cool thing, just while I'm restarting here, the really cool thing is that Warden, so he again the one that stayed up at the in the command module while everyone else went roving around the moon. He did do the first deep space spacewalk. So other people obviously had done spacewalks previously, but this was the first one done in deep space. So it was actually so again they left to head back home on Monday. So that was what was that the second? That was the second, yeah. Um, so a couple days later, just a day or two before they landed, so they're like part way. Okay, they're like part way between the Earth and the Moon. Obviously, he wouldn't do this, if he's just out on his own. That's not a safe thing. So he did that when the other crewmates were back on board, and it was all of them all together, much safer, safety in numbers. So he did an uh, extraterrestrial, extra vehicular EVA. Um, and so he went out to retrieve some camera film that was on basically the outside of the module there. So looks like I pushed the wrong button. Pause that. And all right, and we're back. So back to the open space. Um, yeah, so we'll just poke over to the module, see if I can't find that one more time with our missions. Um, yeah, so they did return safely, obviously. Maybe not obviously, but yeah, they did return safely. There was a small issue um, with one of the parachutes. So one of they have, redundancy. So one of the three parachutes didn't open, but the other two did. So they were fine, which is great. Like really, really great. Um, oh no, 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 don't crash into the moon. Um, so yeah, so safe return. And another, interesting tidbit, there was a bit of controversy about this mission. Um, because well, you can read about it. I kind of want to get into it because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, so we'll just stop by our command module here that was just zipping around in space. And I'm just going to leave this on. I'm going to put this fast forward a little bit um, in time so we can actually see just how fast this kind of moves over the lunar surface. So if you kind of fast forward, there we are, pause. Um, and there we go. So that's 5 seconds per second, 4 seconds per second. Um, Oops, there we are. Um, just kidding. One more. 1 second per second. So this is like kind of a real-time view of how the of what they would have as a view looking out the command module window. And again, remember it's doing its barbecue roll so that it doesn't bake. But yeah, so we had like kind of these extra cameras um, for the J missions, and there was like a whole panel out here. I think this is supposed to be the panel where there was a whole mess of instrumentation. So they had some cameras, they had a gamma ray spectrometer, a laser altimeter, um, and a lunar subsatellite that they left behind after they headed back to Earth. But the oops, not that one. Yeah, but yeah, there's my picture of Al Worden outside doing his deep space walk. So pretty cool, pretty exciting. A lot of fun firsts for this one. At the time, it was like the longest people had been in space, um, or the longest space mission. It was the first mission to have um, the moon buggy. It was the first of the J missions. Um, and I really just like that they did the rock hammer and the feather drop, and also just I really like the geology because it's, like, amazing geology, over in that region. So, yeah, good hiking, and again, these weren't even geologists, they had to train with actual geologists for, like, how to do the rock collecting and, um, the samples and whatnot. So, kind of a cool mission, very excited to be celebrating the 50th anniversary for that. So thanks for joining me through thick and thin. Power stayed on. Hurrah. Um, yeah, if you want to check out other stuff that I'm doing, feel free to check out friendlyneighborhoodastronomer.com. I will get that updated. If you're in the New York City area and want to get a preview for the Perseids, doing a presentation at Wave Hill next Thursday. That's a Thursday, so I'll pre-record something maybe to premiere here. There's also on my YouTube channel now, there's some current skies, so those are dropping on Sunday night, so you can check those out. Those are just pre-recorded. But again, if you're interested in any particular topic you want to see on one of these Thursday evening strolls around our neighborhood, feel free to let me know. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Clear skies, be safe out there. And if you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, please go get vaccinated.